Hello, um, I'm Judy Broderick, and this is Deanna. For me, she's on my left here. Is everybody ready? If so, we'll begin. Good evening, and welcome to the Cyber Claus Cafe. We are honored that you're spending your time with us at the cafe, and I'm Judy Broderick, and that's Deanna. She's being very quiet, and we are part of Santa, and along with the spirit of Santa Nana, of course. We are Santa Nana's Holiday University, a different and unexpected point of view for the holiday education. Thank you for joining us today, where we will have an interactive and casual conversation that we call Ready, Set, Let's Go Claus. It's about feeling prepared, feeling confident, and feeling excited going into the season. So my first question is, what are your biggest excitements or concerns heading into this season? Are you nervous about anything, or do you need input about anything?
I'm fine with everything I've been going with.
Yeah, most of us sitting in here right now are pretty seasoned. So for me personally, we have been booked for several months. And in the last 48 hours, things are falling apart. We have all these people who seem to think that it's like, oh, we've changed our family get together and we can't do it on this Saturday. We want to do it on the following Saturday. And it's like, we're not available. So we'll, that's what's happening with us, but we'll handle it. But anyone else? Like you said, Nina, Michael's going to be at Busch Gardens. Are you going to be joining them?
Not this year. They went from a one venue to back to the old venue again. Sorry, guys. And there's just no room for Mrs. Claus. So he is one of the photo Santas. And then there is a Santa that does the fireside chat, which has a Mrs. Claus. But with my work schedule, I had only give them limited time.
That's right. You're still working.
So I believe that if they were back in the old venue and had two Santas doing photos, because the elves queued them off to two separate lines, there was room for a Mrs. Claus, but not this year. We're booked solid starting Friday the 1st. We have, in fact, this Sunday but what I'm really excited about is that Michael and I, as some of you may know, Miss Anna Duffy, and I minister every Sunday to 2 to 5-year-olds. So one of the churches that we've been out venue in the past, where we just would sit and they would do their service outdoors, and we would have an opportunity just to do photos with them. Even during COVID, they sat on bales of hay in front of us, never got close. So as soon as they sat down, they could take their mask off, get their photo with Santa and Mrs. Not mask, because they weren't, the little ones tried, but we tried to keep them away. They wanted us in children's hour, or whatever they call their time frame, at all 3 different locations. And I said, okay, we are not just going to do photos. So they've given us 10 minutes in the children's time frame to deliver a message. So we are just so excited that we've been brought into a church. I mean, normally it's the first time we've ever, in my whole 20-some years careers, have been allowed to come. We're not in a big sanctuary, but baby steps. Even my church has never invited us in. So I've already got the lessons. So that's the biggest things that we're going to be all 3 Sundays in December working with their 3 different campuses. We're really excited.
So it's different. So you'll be at different places, so you don't have to make a new story for each Sunday.
That's correct. They've already sent me, because I asked them what was the because I know what our churches have lessons, but depending on, this is a non-denominational, I believe. So they have their own lessons. They've sent it to me, and I'm going to try to tie in an object lessons, AKA magic, as well as a story time to go along with the message that they're doing that week. So gotten some new books. I found the one. I don't know if some of you have seen it or not, is about the camel's perspective.
No.
Yeah.
I heard of that one.
Is it Humphrey? I can't remember the name of it. I think it's down in my box in the garage already. But I have a Beanie Baby camel. It's basically he's upset because he's lost his blanket and he finally gets a blanket and then he gives it to baby Jesus. Even though he's been complaining the whole time, well, complaining in camel the whole time to his either one of the three wise men that he was with him, because he had to carry a heavy load of these 3 big boxes, obviously. But so it's a small board book, but I think it work so that I want an opportunity for the children to get used to us before they throw a 2-year-old on our lap without a parent, because the parents aren't going to be in the room with them, just their teachers. Yeah, it's during their children's hour.
Okay, so Dan, are you trying
But there
anything
is
new?
supervision. There's supervision.
Mhm.
Oh,
Oh,
thank
yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing, to always make sure that there's an adult in the room.
Oh, yeah. All the teachers will they'll bring them in group by group.
So Dan, are you trying anything new this year? Are you excited about anything, or how's your season going?
Well, actually, I've started already. I did a wedding reception. That was my first, and that I handed the key of the bride to the groom, and the key to the heart of the groom to the bride, and then a week ago Sunday I did a craft show. That was the first time I've done that. That was kind of fun.
Okay, good. What did you do? Just greeted the children and took pictures, or?
Well, they had a setup, with a chair and a tree and a couple big, real big Christmas bells and that type of stuff, and so we just had photos and with most of it was ladies. They'd come in and they get pictures taken because it was a craft show, but about 20 to 30% of the ones I did were with children. So it was a combination, but it was the first time. So that was I didn't really know what to expect, and it was kind of lackadaisical because no one was there. Supervising the people come in and get the pictures or anything like that. I just sat there and they come up and get pictures taken. And and that I had a lot of people ask if they were charging for it or not, but it was all free. So
That's nice. Do you have any new events happening or tree lightings that you're excited about?
yes, this will be my first year. I'm doing a tree lighting and a parade in a small little town.
Wow.
So, and actually I was kind of wondering if tomorrow we're having a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, and we're just kind of figuring out what kind of questions to ask for them. I didn't, since I haven't done it before, so I was just, I was wondering if there's any if you guys would have any good questions I should ask them at the during our meeting.
Great, Dan. So is the tree lighting after the parade, or are they two separate events?
Well, it's all one night, and so I don't know if I assume the tree lighting is after the parade, because the parade will bring me in, and then we do the tree lighting, and then they have a venue to get photos taken with Santa, and
So here, one question I would suggest asking, just to clarify, because I've done tree lightings at the same venue, and one year was completely different than the one after.
Oh dear.
The first, yeah, and Santa and I thought that we would be escorted out, and that Santa would press the button and like come in with grand entrance, and that it would be Santa who lit the tree. And that's exactly what happened the first year. So contracted to do the same tree lighting the next year, and we come in and like, oh no, we're going to have you over here visiting with the children and taking photos, and they were going to have a dignitary turn on the tree light. So knowing if that's what your role is, then you can have the conversation about the location and the venue, and, the grand entrance, and then what you do after the tree is lit, and if you're going to address the crowd in any way, kicking off the holiday season.
So
We're doing
you're
the
going
same thing. We did a tree lighting and they brought us in on a fire truck. So the other thing I was getting ready to say, Dan, is that what are you riding in on? I mean, they put us in the cab of the fire truck. So here's Mrs. Claus, skirts hiked up to her waist, trying to get into this fire truck. So then we had already had our sleigh there because we knew we were going to be doing photos. We anticipated the same. Now, this is a military base, so I'm sketchy as to who my contact is, but the same thing. So this year, when they brought us back again, because we had the COVID break, I said, even though you don't want Santa to push the button, we really should be at the tree. You bring me in on this fire truck and then I go into a tent and hide. So, and also we're going to be in a small community parade, and we're on the back of a hook, not the hook and ladder. We were just on the back of a regular one. And this year with my husband's arm, and also I said, I'm going to need a step stool. So you either have the step stool for me. I mean, the firefighters were very helpful getting me into the back of this fire truck, but just those kind of things. So it's like, what am I riding in, and what accommodations do I need to bring to get me and him into the back of this thing?
like me in your truck.
Yeah, like you in my truck.
That was interesting.
That's a story that needs told someday.
So, Jan, there's a couple that my husband has done the tree lighting. So there's a couple things that I would ask. And one is your transportation. What time did they actually want you there? Do you have to kind of hide yourself till you get to your venue? Did you put something over you so that they don't see Santa walking up to the fire truck or whatever? Or are you going to come early and you're inside a building and then they escort you out? Will you be up where the children, will you be up with the children? They can see you clearly. Another question would be is, how do they want you to light the tree? And for my husband, finally, he said, you're not going to see me, and you're going to be very disappointed because there's going to be a lot of people there and a crowd, and you're going to have to, we need to be elevated so that we can be seen. And then he has used his delight, the finger light. And so he worked it out with the sound man, but this had to be worked out in advance, where he wanted to collect magic from all the kids, and they wouldn't let him do that. So he just took it from the announcer, and then he has his lighted finger, and they do the countdown. So you need to know if they want a big countdown from like 10, or they want to just do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then he would point to the tree, and he was away from it. And then the sound guy would, at 0 would, press whatever was necessary for the tree. Another one we were at, and he had his staff with him, and he just touched it with his staff. So you need to find out what is the best for creating the magic. And then do they want you to meet and greet for pictures or anything? How are they going to get you out of there without being mobbed? I can tell you that if you get off your parade float or whatever you're in, and you cannot get through the crowd, even though they try and say, okay, everybody separate so Santa can get up to the tree, grab 8 children and say, okay, you guys are your dasher, your dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cube. Okay, line up. Okay, we're all singing, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and off they go through the crowd. People will separate for children. They'll mob you and they want to touch you, but they'll separate for the children, and you can get yourself up to the front. Those are little pieces of advice or questions that I can help you with that have happened with my husband. He's done 4 or 5 different tree lightings.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, Randy. We're talking about what questions and stuff to ask when you're going to be Santa at a tree lighting.
And Gary, I wanted you to weigh in as well. If you've done tree
Yes,
lighting-
also Gary, yes.
Oh, I can tell you stories. I used to do the Mesa Mary Main on Street. They brought us in on a ladder truck with the bucket at the snorkel on the end. So they had to have a step ladder for me to get into the bucket. But when we got to the stage, they parked the fire truck right in the intersection and they put out the arm and they brought the ladder boom and put us right on the stage. You know?
Nice.
And it was so easy to walk off, and it was ever light. And then there was another one I did. It was for Toys for Tot, and we was at one of our little local airports, and they had a B-25, and we were supposed to come in on a B-25. Well, if anybody's been by a B-25, the first step was about 3 feet high. They had to boost me up there. And coming out, they had to hand me down. And when the lady saw me come out of there, she just fell to the floor. You know, there's a real live elf. So that makes the excitement, you know. And of course, Deanna and I did last year. I'm gonna be doing it next weekend. We're doing a fundraiser for one of our local barbecue places. And we're gonna go to 4 locations and we're gonna do Christmas tree lighting at each one of the stores. And so it's just awesome. I've done a few. I used to do the anthem tree lighting, where the world's Arizona's tallest Christmas tree, and used to go out there and help flip the switch.
Mm-hmm. We got
Do a
couple-
countdown, like 10, 9, 8, or 5, 4, 3.
Yeah.
I think they did the 10 on down.
Will you have a microphone? Is a good question.
Yeah, we held microphones. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Santa Tom, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, just fine. Sorry, I'm
Good.
late.
No, that's okay. I was trying to find, we're not connected on Facebook, so we need to fix that. I was gonna send you a note. Dan has his very first tree lighting, so he's meeting with the team tomorrow and he's collecting questions to ask. So a lot of what we've talked about so far, and Dan, you want to know what questions to ask? You're getting a slew of them.
I sure am. I
Good.
sure
So
am.
about his
I
role, and
appreciate
he'll be
all the
doing
help.
the lighting and then how to do it. So if you have insight on that, and then welcome Randy and Yvonne. Glad you're able to join, and Kathy in the dark, just getting home. So do you have any insights or questions that that Dan can ask the team tomorrow?
Yeah.
I've never done a tree lighting, so I couldn't tell you.
Okay, well then listen up. How about you, Randy?
They're still connecting to audio, it looks like.
Okay, well then we'll come back to them. Hi, Yvonne. Have you done tree lightings before? Nope. Okay. So Dan, what other questions do you have about the tree lighting?
Well, you know, I think, you know, all the ones you have here, you know, I was going to propose to them to do the D-light, you know, and have, you know, have me, I hadn't really, I was trying to figure out where I'd get the, you know, the light for the finger, you know, at, and
A magic
it sounds
shop.
like, you know, like
Little magic
the
shop.
magic, yeah, like the magic from a couple of the kids or something like that, if I can, or and that, you know, I thought that would be a great, you know, thing to do, you know, at a really, you know, spark the excitement for that. I do know is that they already have the venue set up is the Masonic Lodge that's in the town, you know. I'm not quite sure. I got to find out. You know, I think the good thing is they asked where the staging area is. You know, I don't know what the route for the parade is going to be.
That would be a good question to ask, and also to walk the venue where the tree lighting is going to be, so you know where you would be coming from and where the tree is going to be, and kind of visualize that path.
That sounds good. I mean, this town does not even have a stoplight in it. So
Fun.
You know,
I think it would be a great idea, honestly, to go in there expecting that you'll be the one lighting the tree,
mhm.
Yes.
rather than asking them, will I light the tree? Here's how I see, if you can paint that picture and your role in it, that you're presuming and you're expecting, and after you describe how it could be with the magic lighting the tree, then they'll absolutely be convinced if they had any other thoughts.
Did
And at
somebody,
least make sure that you're talking with the technical person who is going to be handling the lighting, the
Yeah, I
tree
don't
lighting
know.
up.
Yeah. Right now, as far as I know, is I'm just talking with one of the people who was a member of the Chamber of Commerce. But
Okay.
I don't know if they have anyone else there or not.
You might give them a big relief, because planning Christmas activities for towns is no small feat, even for a small town. And
Mhm.
so they might really appreciate the suggestions and recommendations that you have.
What we found is that the person I worked with 2 years ago, because this is a military base and they changed commands, and this MWR person is brand new. So it's like I'm coaxing. I mean, and this is like 45 minutes away from our house. So it's not like I can just pull up and say, hi, let's talk. So I've got to narrow it down. But so yeah, we and some of the things that y'all just talked about, I'm going to again put in my email, because what we did 2 years ago, pre-COVID, what we did is not maybe what he's thinking, but it's like, okay, I'm pulling teeth trying to get an email back, and he won't answer the phone either. So
Right.
Find out if there's going to be any other speakers or performers. Are they going to have, for instance, all of a sudden you find out that St. Mary's is going to have their children's choir there singing or something
well,
like
since
that.
it's a military base, they'll probably have one of the muckety mucks there in the base,
Right.
do it. But again, these are all the questions I've probed, left voicemail, but it may just be, it's close to where Michael is, close to BG. So I might be able to he may just have to stop by one day next week and say, okay, we got to talk, because I'm hauling a sleigh too. So it's like, because we provide the sleigh,
wow,
we
yeah.
provide the sleigh for the photos.
Yeah, we have a sleigh, but for our city parade, they bring Bill off the top of the bank and the big bucket on the ladder comes up, and you can't see him, and then all of a sudden he steps into it and comes down. And so it's only like 4 or 5 stories up, but it's like, okay, I'm not standing around for watching this part of it.
I
But
thought
they
you were,
brought us in with the
I thought you were
blade
going to say that
glory.
I thought you were going to say he rappelled down.
Repel a parachute.
There was a Santa recently who did a repelling for a fundraiser.
Joe Edie?
Yeah, Joe Edie in Ann Arbor.
Oh, gosh.
Like, and then you see, these, like movies where something goes wrong and there they are hung by their foot, dangling in the middle of the mall or something like that. It's like, yeah,
I saw-
Bill
So
was
Phoenix
airborne,
Santa has just joined, and I'm trying to figure out who Phoenix Santa is, because I can't tell by the picture.
he has a gorgeous coat.
Who's Phoenix Santa?
I'm Stephanie.
Is that Lisa?
Stephanie.
Stephanie, oh, I'm sorry, okay.
That's okay.
No, that's okay. I was trying to connect with you on Facebook and I wasn't sure which Stephanie Butler you were. So, okay, sorry, Judy. Take it back.
No, we're doing good. Does anybody else have some suggestions or questions also? Now,
Question.
yes, Kathy.
Did somebody say, when I was just coming in, I think, did somebody say that the town wouldn't let them use the delight button to get magic from the kids? And if that was
Yes,
the case,
I did.
why
They
not?
did not want him, because then some other child will say that they were, he didn't touch me, how come, and stuff like this, and they don't want somebody grumbling. So they just, he can use the delight, he just can't go around and collect the magic from the children.
And that's so much fun. It really is. It's
And
so much
Bill,
Magic
my husband
fingers.
finally had to say to them, you have to understand that if a child talks to me, I am stopping and talking to them. I do not neglect the child.
Can't you collect it as a group though, and like the adults versus the kids, and see who has the most and not just individual kids? Like do it as a
Well,
group.
there's about 5,000 people there.
You can
in
say
our-
this and that side.
So he was just gonna go around to some of the kids that were up near the front, but they just said no, and that's like, that's a pretty minor thing. So
Yeah.
we're,
But
not a
like
problem
Deanna
for
said,
us.
it's fun.
Pick your
Yeah.
battles.
Last.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like they had the reindeer down here in Celine from
I
Claire
saw that.
this weekend. And I had $5 with me and I went in and got quarters. I was giving quarters to all the kids whose parents don't carry cash anymore. And, the mothers are digging in their purse and they're like, honey, I don't have any change. Because they had a little quarter thing, like a gumball machine. You had to put a quarter in to get the food. So I had $5. So I went inside and I said, can you give me $5 worth of quarters? And then my
So they can buy
girlfriend had,
reindeer food?
yeah, my girlfriend had a big bag, like a sandwich bag of change. So I went back out to her car and she had $10 worth of quarters in there. So I was giving quarters away to anybody that needed quarters. It was so much fun.
So were
Speaking
you
of
dressed
reindeer
as Mrs.
food,
Claus, Kathy?
Do what?
Were you dressed as Mrs. Claus?
Nope. I had my reindeer sweatshirt on because we follow the reindeer. And
I know you're a reindeer groupie.
well, last year, the manager of the garden center played Santa. This year, they had like a 20-year-old kid do it. So you never know what they're going to do. So I didn't even ask, but they let us take I took a collection jar out there and a poster for Great Lakes Santas. And I didn't get out there today to pick it up. She told me I could put it up yesterday and I meant to pick it up today and I didn't, but it didn't have a whole lot in it, but $20 is $20,
Right. And that's 1 or 2 presents for children. So,
Yeah. And she gave us a donation, she gave us a $100 donation last summer when I asked her about coming out and stuff. So
Yvonne, are you going to do anything special? Do you have a special event that you're excited about?
Can
Or
you
did
hear
I
me?
put you on the spot?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
yeah,
Okay. We normally do a lot of volunteer work. This is first year with doing any kind of paid event. Our first event is going to be right after Thanksgiving. There's quite a bit of different things we're doing. So we're still learning, but like a preschool party, Trader's Village, we're doing Santa Cop, we're doing a farmer's market. We're doing a private thing and we still do Secret Sleigh.
what's
Yeah.
Santa Cop?
The
Yeah.
what?
What's Santa Cop? Is that like
Santa
Cop
Cop
with-
is a police department. They go out and they give kids toys. And they have Santa and Mrs. Santa there to like deliver the toys. I think it's going to be a big event where there's going to be like 100 kids come in, actually. We've never done
like
it.
Shop with a Cop, or is it different than Shop with a Cop?
I'm not sure what Shop with a Cop is, but I think it may be similar to that. But they do it throughout the season, and then they have a big party, I think, for them. I think that's what this is going to be, the big party.
Shop with a Cop is kids that have been in trouble
Yeah.
or taken
At
from
risk.
home or
At risk.
arrested.
They may do that too. I think this is basically underprivileged kids
Oh,
mainly.
nice.
Yeah, that they do a big party for. So
So-
it'll all be, it'll all be fun. It's
Do
just,
you have any questions that you'd like to ask this group?
no, I just got back. I'm doing 3 things at once too. No, I've learned a lot from all these seminars though. It's been fun being able to do all these seminars. And of course, we'll learn more at Roundup too. We just got in a little late to get on some of the things, but like I said, we've done volunteer work for about 3 years, but this will be the first year we've done some paid. So hopefully we'll do okay. Like I said, I've learned a lot from all of y'all.
One
Randy
thing
and
that I-
Paula, do you,
oh, yeah,
I'm
one-
sorry, Dean.
Oh, I was gonna say, one thing that I found over the years is that the approach to an event that's charity with underprivileged children is completely different from the approach that you take to a family visit or a corporate visit or even a mall visit. Have you all found that? And especially if you're going to have both of those kinds of events in the mix, to be aware that, you know, the conversations, the requests are different. The, you know, Judy will tell you later, you know, we never promise anything as a clause, but the just the dynamic I've noticed with the charitable events, it's different. We're still the same clause, we still share the same joy. But if you hear someone at an underprivileged school saying, I want to have, you know, a $300 gift, you know that that's not likely to happen unless they're part of the Salvation Angel Tree or something like that. What's been your experience? Because I think, you know, for any one of us who has those events, anticipating those conversations might be good to hear about your experiences. Gary, I saw you nodding.
It's a challenge, you know, but it goes both ways. But you just have to listen, understand, and then give them a little good advice, you know, on certain things, you know, because I know I've had some kids come up, says, Santa, or can you bring my daddy back or my brother back? You know, that's a hard, touching story, you know. But it's rewarding though. It's rewarding. I've done 2 terminal ill kids like in the last 37 years, you know, and it was saddened that they had passed away, but you know, it's worth the effort, you know. You got to get down to their level, but I enjoy what I do.
Anyone
So-
else had a mix of those kinds of events and any differences in the conversations?
This is Nina. One thing that I've realized with the dynamics of doing a corporate event versus and you never know, especially if it's a public event, you never know what the family dynamics are. And with us being a military town, and also, you know, I have tried very hard not to say, oh, your mom and your dad, because mom or dad are older now. And I'm thinking, you know, I'm assuming I'm a young grandma. I got a 17-year-old granddaughter, but some people are just starting out late in life. I could say your grandma and they could say, no, I'm the mom. So I'm trying very hard. And I don't want to say be politically correct, but I'll say the adult that brought you or versus, and if anybody else has anything else that's a better word to say, I'm trying not to say your mom or your dad, or, you know, or even the parental figure that brought you. It's kind of like they don't understand what parental figure is. So
Reminds me of Saturday Night Live, parental units.
yeah, your parental.
But here again, when I found out that was a little kid, I said, who did you bring with you today?
I was going to say,
Who did you bring with you today, or who's with you? Oh, that's my grandma, or that's my, okay. You know,
Yeah.
and then sometimes they'll come out and they say, well, my daddy's not around no more, or my mommy's not around no more, you know, so I think that's the best scenario that you can do. It says, who did you bring with you? Or who's
And I'll
with
try,
you?
you know, sometimes I'll say the adult, you know, because 9 times out of 10, they had to have somewhat of an adult bring them.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Right.
But, you know, with the 2 moms and the 2 dads and the grandmas raising and, you know, mom may be deployed and daddy is the parental figure that's home at the base here. I like that saying, you know, who brought you, but and also too,
Or who did you bring?
Yeah, who did you bring with you? We also can't, you know, talking down about the dynamics, you know, we never promise anything because again, the $300 toy versus what you don't know they're bringing, you know, we'll always try, you know, Santa will always do his best, but, you know, and also not even going into the live animal thing. He just got hit with that last night.
Well, sometimes I put out it, you know what, it's down to the final person if Mrs. Claus knows what's best for you. And so if the parents don't pick up, they know who they are. They're the Mrs. Claus or Santa Claus. They're the ones going to make the final decision. So here again, you don't promise them.
Oh, we've never promised anything, but again, it's just the dynamics of When you're in a
Yeah.
public venue, you could have that family that, the Santa brings cars, and then the next family, Santa's barely can bring a pair of socks, it's just that. But
Mhm.
I
Something
like,
to be-
it was
something
just
to be aware of.
whatever y'all have used in the past about the adults that come with them. So that's one thing I've tried very hard to not stumble on your parents, because that's not
Right.
happening a lot these days.
And a couple of years ago, I ran into a same gender family. So there were two mothers. And so yeah, you have to be careful. It's like,
Yeah, the dynamics have changed.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
anyone else want to contribute or have questions or something exciting and new that you're doing this year?
Well, I'm glad I'm doing a couple of charitable programs this year because, here again, we've lost a couple Santas in our area. And I am fulfilling one of the Santas that I really like to have conversation with. He's no longer with us. And so I'm taking over his position at one of the schools, and I just feel honored. And I think that's exciting for me.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
You're going to hear more from Gary
Yes,
in a
go
bit.
ahead, Thomas. Go ahead, Thomas.
I'm doing a charitable gig for a local astronomy club. We have a lake in town, and what they've done is they've done a solar system around the lake. So it's the distance is statistically like what it is on outer space. So they're going to put me on Mercury, which is the first.
Ooh, that's warm.
Where is this?
It's in Longview, Washington. And
Oh.
so I'm going to be on Mercury, and the first planet, of course. And what people will do is check in at the sun, and then they'll come to see me and take selfies or whatever they want to do. And we'll have a tent, and Mrs. Claus will be with me, and Christmas tree, and it'll all be decorated. So I'm kind of excited to do this.
Don't melt your
It's going to
wings.
be awfully cold, but we'll see.
That's the first time I've heard of that kind of an event. Do you have to do any different kind of preparation for the solar system for living? Everyone knows you're from outer space anyway, Tom. So
That's true. That's true. That's my wife. She'll tell you.
But I'm wondering if there's something, unique about preparing for that kind of event.
Well, again, it's something that I haven't done yet. I've
Yeah.
never done this, so it's kind of like, well, what's going to happen? Are there going to be a lot of people? Because it is going to be cold. It's going to be at night. So,
Are you gonna dress differently as Santa because of it?
well, I'm going to have to get my long johns out. That's for sure.
No, I mean Spacey. Are you gonna dress in the theme?
I was thinking about it. I have a Native American capo that's about brilliant red, and so I could put that on over my suit. That'll keep me warm. It's 100% wool, so
But
Yeah.
no Santa
I don't know.
space.
we'll see. It should be fun, anyways. I'll tell you about it in January.
Okay.
Sounds wonderful. And I know I was going to tell you this at the end, but don't forget in the mid-season, we're having on December 7th, we're having another just check-in for people who want to chit chat and say, this did not work, or what do I do about this? Or I have this coming up and I have a few questions. Who can help me out with what I'm supposed to do type of thing.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Has anybody ever done Shop with a Cop?
Yeah,
Mary?
Yes.
Okay, if you have a child that has a list, and Rance is going to make me do Shop with a Cop with him instead of Mary. Mary's going, but he wants me to experience it. So I'm going to be
Rance.
Mr. Santa. And he said, sometimes the kids bring lists that the parents made out, and the lists aren't things that the kids want. It's things that mom or dad want for the family. And that he has seen cops take the list and rip it up and say, we're buying stuff for you. What
Well,
do you do in a situation like that? Do you buy stuff for the kid because that's what it's for? Or do you buy the things on the list that mom put down?
Oh,
They-
Okay, I misunderstood what they did. So this is where they can buy something for them.
Yes.
So,
Because
so my experience with Shop with the Cop was at one of the nicer malls in Scottsdale. And the way it worked is that Santa and I stayed in the Santa set area. And the at-risk teens went and shopped with the cop. They were given a gift card and they were allowed to buy anything they wanted. I never heard that they were given a list that they had to buy things for the family. But I don't, if you're going along with the shopping, I would try and draw a line between what you're there for and let any questions about, here's a list, let the cop handle it. Let the
I would say let the police
going with
officer
one
handle it.
children. He said all the kids are doled out to the cops and
Yes.
whoever the volunteers are.
Yes.
And Mrs. Claus gets the last child because all the kids want to go with Mrs. Claus. So he said, you will be the last one to get a child, but you will go shopping with a child. And I'm
Okay.
just
Oh,
that they're, and he said sometimes they have them bring a list in of the things they want. And a lot of the kids will bring one of stuff that they want, and that's okay because that's what it's for. I was explained in Michigan, Shop with a Cop is kids that have been in trouble with the law or been taken out of their homes, and the cops want to show them we're good people too.
Right.
So they do this for the kids, and then they have a party and wrap the gifts and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But I've also been told that sometimes the kids will come in with a list that mom or dad has made out that aren't things for that child in particular. It's like mom needs a crock pot, or mom wants this, or dad wants that, and it's nothing for the child. It's
I think
and
that's
he's
I'll bet that Michigan Shop with a Cop program has seen that happen before, as far, well, obviously they've seen it before, but we'll know how they address it. Because that's a lot of pressure for that child when it's supposed to be for them.
yeah.
That's my thoughts, and I would probably approach the people at either the shopping center or the cops, and how they have handled,
Okay.
and if there's anything where the parents would get upset, is like, let them refer to the police officer.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I would, because they're not going to question an authority figure as much.
That's
Right.
true. Yeah.
Right.
But that would be my advice. But sometimes you can say, well, you know, you have a few dollars left over. Is there something you'd like to get for your mom?
Yeah.
Or
Ray's, I had leave.
that's on this list, or
Ray's
what,
told me I had to leave my purse with him, that I couldn't take my purse with me.
so that you won't buy things for them because you do that, like
I
the
know.
quarters at the
Yeah.
reindeer farm.
But that's what makes it so fun.
So
Judy had mentioned, or someone had mentioned earlier about secret sleigh, and I know that we talk about it every now and again. Are you all familiar with the secret sleigh project?
No.
A little bit.
Yes. Who is not?
Me.
Okay, so Tom, that's because, okay, so this is one of your newer ventures. So we'll just give the Reader's Digest. Do you want me to do it, Judy, or do you want to explain Sarah's
go for it.
program?
Go for
Okay.
it.
So the history of this is there's a lady outside the Denver area by the name of Sarah Cordes, although her new name, she just got married 2 weeks ago. She has a daughter with special needs, and it had been very difficult for her to be able to take her daughter out to the mall or out to any other place to go see Santa. So she thought, and she's part of this other support group of moms with children with special needs. So she arranged for a Santa to come to her home to visit. So she didn't have to worry about getting Lily all dressed up, and you know, it's Denver in December and cold, and it's quite an ordeal to get Lily out of the house. So Santa came to visit Lily. When the moms in the whole area kind of like learned, oh, can that Santa come visit my child and my family? And so it has evolved over the past few years into an international, definitely cross-country organization where Sarah Cordes, you can go to Facebook or you can look at her website. Just do a search on the Secret Sleigh Project. And anyone who wants to be part of that, she asks for a clear background check. You fill out a few questions about, if you have experience, which is not a requirement. Then she shares with you a family or families, depending on how many you can absorb. And you then contact the family to arrange a visit so that it works on your schedule as well as the family's. Sarah also includes information about the child and their special needs, and if there are other siblings and their ages and all of those things. And then you become a part of that family. And if you want to, the next year, you get to go back and visit them in their home, and just make it a much easier, less stressed holiday for those families. What did I
Do you buy
miss?
presents for them and stuff then?
I'm sorry, Kathy?
Do you buy presents and stuff for the family then, or just visit?
No, we don't buy presents. If you're the type of Claus where, like Mrs. Claus always brings like a little goodie. I bring, a bell or the Believe ticket from Polar Express, or, the coins, something age appropriate, depending on the special need of the family. So no, you don't buy presents. That would be something completely different. This is a visit.
We've done it here in Virginia, pre-COVID. I guess that's terrible. Yeah, but we try and hook up with her, but again, with her getting married, unfortunately, we won't have any availability. So I know that she was trying to get a committee in the past to help. That's the one thing, is that it's like she's because of Lily, she's always behind the 8 ball trying to get this up and running and get it coordinated. But Michael did one that was totally wheelchair bound. It was during the day. And then sometimes these children are not in school, or they're homeschooled, or their schedule is different. So that's a good opportunity to do it. If you can coordinate with the guardian or whoever that child is with to do it during the day. But we had one family that the younger siblings, because the disabled child or the special need child requires so much attention. The parents don't do it on purpose, but the siblings sometimes, we loved upon him as much as we loved upon her. And you could just see him light up that, he was getting equal attention, and it's wonderful. It really is. But we hope to try to get, with her, like I say, getting married, and we hadn't been able to hook up yet.
Same
you
is
have
true
to
for
do it
Santa
as a couple?
America as well.
You have
Yes.
to do it as a couple then.
No, we're always a couple,
As many as
Kathy.
you can
Michael
do.
doesn't go anywhere if I don't go with him. I'm an add-on. We don't, because I still work full-time. He may have 1 or 2 that I can't do.
Uh-huh.
But when I book, some of the Mrs. Clauses, and we're going here on a different tangent, some of the Mrs. Clauses will say, well, I can't get them to let me come. They don't get a choice. You want my husband, you're getting me, if I'm available to do it. And I've never had anybody turn me down unless I was subcontracting from somebody else.
No,
If
I
they book him and it's just him, I'm not going to go if I don't have permission to go.
Right.
But this
Put
was
the,
just a
the
joint
link
venture.
to Sarah's site in the chat box, if you're interested and want to learn more about it.
and they
So-
want
Hi,
Santa there.
Yvonne. Yes,
The
Yvonne.
I was gonna say, the one we had last year, our child was terminal, and he was probably not gonna live past another month. And it was really sad, but it made the family very happy we were there. And of course, his little sister loved us, of course, but all they wanted was pictures. But what you do when you call the family, you say, what would you like? You have us for an hour free. They either want you to do pictures, or they want you to read books to the kids, or whatever it might be. But a couple years ago, we had a military dad come home, and we were there, and the whole neighborhood was there. We walked in, and I was like 20 people in that house. So all they wanted was pictures. That's all they wanted for now was pictures, pictures, pictures. And that's all we did. And we did give a little gift for the child. He was wheelchair bound, and it was a little toy. It was probably $3. But we asked them that, and they'll usually say, hey, this would be good, or, or don't give them candy, or whatever it might be. But it's just for an hour, and it's really rewarding to do.
Yeah, it is.
Kathy,
That's
if
a good
there's
point
no
you
Mrs.
just said.
Claus- I'm sorry, Kathy, if there is no Santas available to do it and you volunteer, I know some of these families would love the Mrs. Claus if a Santa,
Yeah.
they would just love a visit.
You know,
Right.
I have a cousin that's a Santa. Dan and I are cousins. I give him a hard time.
Ah,
We're down the line. We're cousins.
But Mrs. might be able to do it where Santa's not available, so I would definitely hook
Okay.
up with.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Okay.
Yeah,
The other place is Santa America. We're doing an event for them a Saturday after Thanksgiving, the day after the parade. And we're going to Milwaukee and doing an entire school of children who have special needs or autism. And they will be bringing them in 1 or 2 families at a time. And that's all a charity. And the connection there was Don Chewy from Santa America. But so there's 2 sites that you can go to do it. And with them, you can also give them, you can make what works for you. You can say, I can only do a 25-mile radius. I can only do something within 15 minutes of my home. I can only do something within 50 miles of my home, especially take into account if you are a person who does not want to drive at night, this type of thing. So, but you can work it out with the people once you get the name.
Okay.
And what works well.
All right.
Okay, so we have Stephanie, is that it? Who's Phoenix Santa? Is that the name I heard, Deanna?
Yep.
Stephanie? Do you have any comments or anything that you want to do?
No, everybody's touched on the same things that we're doing. I mean, we're doing tree lightings for the first time this year. Nothing, I don't know. I think Santa's going to be doing some kind of skydiving thing with one of the party planners. So at one of the free fall places.
Oh, wow.
And then
That's scary.
and then the Great Wolf Lodge is going to have those special things too that they always have every season. So no, there's nothing special for us.
When you go to the Great Wolf Lodge, when is your cutoff date?
We're only going one date, and that's the 22nd of December. The rest of the times have been booked by other Santas. We weren't available because we still have full-time jobs. I'm a police officer, and Santa works at the zoo. So we we have very limited time to spend for our season.
hey, Judy, let me just kind of interject here. Why don't we jump over to Gary?
Okay,
And then Gary Hexton.
we're going to go back to some more questions later, but this has been a good conversation. Lots of good ideas going out. But we have a special guest, Gary Hicks, and he has been a performer for over 45 years. He has been an elf. How many years have you been an elf, Gary?
I've been an elf 45 years.
An elf 45 years. Okay, I
Also,
thought that was
yeah.
just with your clowning.
Yeah,
And
if-
then he has transitioned into Santa Claus, a right jolly old elf. And he's been doing that for 5 years. And Gary's going to tell us a little bit about, he's calls himself Arizona's littlest Santa.
right.
And he's also known as Elf Snappy. And he's going to tell us a little bit about how an extra performer and what he does to help enhance any kind of event that and how he helps enhance it and what does he do. So go take it, Gary. You're in charge.
Well, basically, I started out as an entertaining clown. And then over the years, I decided we want to be elf because I want to utilize my size. I'm 4'7". I'm a little person. And I know I don't hold anything back about what I do. But working with a company called Santa Claus and Company had really opened it up more. And I used to go on a lot of PR events because a lot of people didn't really want elves. They didn't think, oh, that's an added. But when I started working for Paul Gaines at Santa Claus and Company 37 years ago, I was his timekeeper. I kept him on time. I helped him hand out the presents, read the names.
2098 to 2005 are all the same.
And so it just transitioned, you know. One year I did a party with Paul. We had a terminal ill child, and Make-A-Wish brought us in. Well, we came in the Batmobile. We have a gentleman here that has one of the replicas of the Batmobile, and they brought us in, and we went to visit this terminally ill boy, and they threw a big party for him. And of course, they didn't expect him to live for about another 5 days, but it was just a blessing. And this company that hired us at the Batmobile, he has a foundation called Bruce Wayne Foundation. And he's building a whole new building. He's got the Bat car, he's got the Bat copter, he got the Bat motorcycle. You know, he's got everything, the Bat cave. He's got a Bat cave. But that is so rewarding. But anyway, I kept Santa Paul. We did magic together. He didn't put me aside or push me away. We intertwined in our working. And it was just, and of course, Santa, right before he passed away, he made the Santa Hall of Fame. And you know what made him look good was me helping him, being his partner. So it was just, you know, everybody loved, you know, having an elf, you know. Not too many times, you know, Mrs. Claus comes in, but the main thing was helping Santa and introducing him, sing songs and everything. So I did magic. So we took turns doing magic tricks. We learned from each other. So it's been wonderful.
Did you ever perform as an elf alone, solo?
Oh, many times, where sad to say I had to go out with a beginning Santa, and he didn't hardly have anything in his bag. He didn't have a book. He didn't even have a bill. He maybe had, you know, something. He brought a bag, you know, but he was nothing really in it. I ended up doing the magic show and doing the singing, you know, and that's why, you know, that's why Santa Paul always had me go out with a new Santa to see how they would perform, because Santa Claus and Company is an entertaining company. So, I mean, you have to learn how to sing. I did a job last year. I never worked with the Santa or the Mrs. Claus, but the other elf I worked with, the Santa, all he had was the Polar Express, not even a bell. Mrs. Claus read the Polar Express. He didn't know any magic. He didn't know how to sing. And Mrs. Claus said, well, she forgot the words to some of the songs, especially Rudolph. And she said, don't ask me to sing Frosty the Snowman because I don't know the words in front of 20 kids. You know?
Oh, no.
And that makes it frustrating. But the thing is, learning to intertwine or work with the Santa that you know, get to know each other. And that's the main thing. And it makes it your transition flow like it should be, you know.
So Gary, I know you're going to tell the story about My Arms Are Longer, but one of the things that comes up often is, especially, you know, everyone loves to have Santa come to an event. It's been a challenge to have Mrs. Claus, and as more and more, you know, that Mrs. Clausers are being part of that. How have you, or how has Santa Claus and Company, as Mark, handled, well, I'd love to have an elf, but I don't want to pay for one?
Right. Sometimes, you know, usually in the first, if they're new, he'll bring me along anyway for PR, you know, for PR work. And so, you know, if they really like what they saw, they'll book me for next year. You know, I did one with another Santa in town. I was just a ride along. We stopped at a house. There were two boys. Santa Joe was a little bit plumpier than I was because I could stand behind Santa and they couldn't see me. We walked in the door and the dad started to shut the door behind Santa. And I went, and he looked behind the Santa and I put my finger up like, be quiet. I said, I'll get the door. So Dad backed into the room. Two boys were sitting on the floor by the Christmas tree. And Santa was saying, you know, it's great to see you guys this year and want to pay this visit. You know what? I have a special treat for you. And they said, oh, what is it? What is it? They said, I brought my #1 elf, Snappy. And just at that time, the mother came walking in with a plate full of cookies on a tray, and she saw me and dropped, her mouth went right to the floor and dropped a plate of cookies. I did their party for 12 years. And she had me back, and she got upset when I didn't come. You know, there was a couple years I missed, but she, in fact, I did a pro bono for 2 years ago. Her son was going in the military, and I did a pro bono for her, and she just loved it. So she, yeah, it's great. It's fun.
You made a statement to us earlier about having an elf give Santa, what did you say? You said he made him real and made him more believable.
Right,
Because children really expect elves.
because a lot of people don't respect the elves, and then when they see me, like I said, with this woman, she just said a real live elf, and that's what clicks, you know. And I could do the things, you know. Like I said, 1 year Santa had laryngitis. He couldn't even ho-ho. He could go, you know, no, Santa, that's not how you do it. You got to go, ho, 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 ho. And everybody fell apart with that. And it just made me feel better. And it made him look better also. And of course, we played with the bigger guys when we go into a home. And I'll tell you this one about Charles Barkley. Santa and I made a bet with Charles Barkley that my arm was longer than his. And you know how tall Charles Barkley is, right? And so anyway, and Charles was going to hit me on the head, you know, no, my arm's longer than yours. You ain't that. So we did the thing. I pulled my arm out straight like he did. And I said, on the count of 3, we're going to drop our arm to the side. And so 1, 2, 3, we dropped our arm, and my hand was closer to the ground than his was. And he could have nailed me real good. So everybody had a laugh against the celebrity. And that's what makes it fun.
Have any of you had a chance to work with an elf? And that's why we wanted to have Gary here going into the season, that there are these opportunities and you know, wondering what adding an elf character could do to your event. And that's why Gary's going to share some of the things that he's done and how much more of a complete experience. So want to ask, you know, if you have questions or if you're planning on using an elf or an additional character this season.
I bring in, depending on the venue, we used to do again, pre-COVID, you used to do the local breakfast, the river cruise, and it was breakfast with Santa. They're not ready to bring all these children in. And then also the cruise ship basically caught fire. So they brought in a smaller ship. But I bring in glitter tattoo elves. And now my 17-year-old granddaughter is my elf. I also bring in balloonist elves. And other times I've brought in my teenage elves to do the stuffies or a craft project. So because Santa and I used to be, or still clowns, but plainclothes clowns now, and we do the magic, we always do an illusion or a storybook. But if I book a whole entire event, I'll bring in my elves to do the crafts and kind of keep the children occupied, especially if it's a larger venue, even if it's just coloring pages or something to that point. And it's in my package deal. You know, usually I have to pick them up. So grandkids didn't get quite as much. Now she's driving, so she's got to get a little bit more.
Well,
What
Santa Claus, go ahead.
I just asked Nina what the stuffies were.
It's called Teddy Mountain. It's almost like Build-A-Bear. The company Build-A-Bear, they're called skins. And I don't have the machine, but I buy the skins of the different, some of them are Christmas characters, other ones are just animals, and then buy the big stuffing. And then my elves will help the children stuff their own character.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
But if you can get with, I don't know, a lot of states have Little People of America. If you can talk to the president, because basically, I can't tell the other little people I work with, we're not there to get to be somebody to stand there and look pretty. We're there to help. So if a Santa can hire a little person, because if they can't do any other job or anything, and they have no life, but if you can hire a little person and not degrade them or anything like that, make them part of your program. And you know what? It'll set your business off great. Santa Claus and Company is 50 years old of this year. And Santa Claus and Company was the only largest Santa Claus west of the Mississippi that had 10 genuine little people. And that's what made him business look good. So it's rewarding, I had taught like 5 other Santas how to better themselves, because I'm a critic, but I want people to criticize me if I'm doing something wrong. So that's where we learn from that, constructive criticism.
Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome.
Anyone have any questions for Snappy?
I like his name.
You should see.
Yeah.
I will tell you, last year at this Dylan's barbecue, the event at the 4 different locations, and then the final one where last year it was 250 children
Right.
and their
Yes.
families come for their Christmas, and there's all the sponsors for these kids, and Santa, well, Gary and I come out first and we get up on the stage and we sing Santa Claus is coming to town while Santa's coming in on a 4-wheeler. But after that, and all of the jingle and mingle with everybody, everyone wanted to go to Snappy. Everyone wanted to spend time and get their picture taken with Snappy.
They'd never seen a genuine live elf. And I mean, that's the selling point. Hey, I'm a genuine elf.
You outshone Santa last year. And Santa is hard to miss because Sean is he's a
big tall guy.
He's a big boy and tall, stocky. But anyway,
We have had this question come up, so I'm going to give you guys a scenario. You're at an event and an adult approaches you and asks you if you're available for another party and if you have a business card. How do you stay in character? Go ahead, anybody can answer. And I'm about ready to call on Randy and Paula because they're muted and they haven't said a word yet.
Basically, if I'm working for somebody else, I do not hand out my business card. It's just a code of ethics. I mean, if they see me someplace else and they ask for a business card away from anybody else, then I probably do it. But actually at an event, it's just like in the clown business. You do not pass out a business card, even if the agent was doing it. I said, well, you would have to call the person that's in charge, and they can probably give you the information that you need. So that's how I handle it.
Anyone else? Any advice?
Santa Duffy has the business cards that Spangles does with his photo on it. So it's the $1 million bill. So if they ask me for my contact information, I kind of blow it off and say, well, here's some money. And then I kind of discreetly show them that the Social Security number is my cell phone. So, but trying not to, you got to stay in character, but they're kind of like pushing for contact information. So it kind of diffuses the situation, but still gives them the information that they want.
I am aware of a situation where a person was very adamant about constantly, badgering a Santa who did not have anyone else with him at the time about another job. And tell me what your real name is and all this sort of thing. And does anyone have advice for how to handle this, or what to do. So, Tom, do you have anything? Or, okay. Crickets.
I found a couple years ago, I played a Santa at one of the Christmas tree lighting. Oh, at the mall. I was at the mall. And these kids came up and they took pictures with me. A couple weeks later, I was playing an elf at a world of illumination lights that they had, where you drive through with the car, and they had music tuned to the light. And these two kids come up, aren't you Santa? And of course, the Santa I was with, he said, oh, that's his twin brother. So, I mean, that was a tough one because they did see me twice.
So they saw you twice, once as an elf and once as Santa?
Right. They saw me as a Santa first because, well, I had the white beard because I dyed it white, or bleach it, So they,
Right.
but still, as an elf, I still had the change of costume, but I still had the white beard.
Sounds like risky business.
What's that?
Sounds like risky business.
It is. It can be, But a lot of kids will ask, well, why are you so small? I said, well, that's the way God made me. We have people that's tall, skinny, real heavy set, and bald headed, or all kinds of people. So we come in all different sizes. I mean, it's easy to explain, As being an elf, we're all different colors. And if you ever see a little person, I have a story with that. If you ever see a little person throughout the world, or a dwarf, just, because Santa had so many elves he didn't know what to do with, he had to spread them out. So the cliffs of Dover, to Japan, to Australia, even the deserts of Arizona, those elves are keeping an eye on you for Santa. And that's the story I give them there.
Mm-hmm.
And they take it with a grain, they take it in, they just awed by it.
I mean, if it makes sense, if it's believable, and it is, I mean, just like some are made with red hair, some are made with blonde hair, some have brown eyes, some have blue eyes. So everybody's different.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have any questions that we can help answer that they're anxious about, or they want to share something that they're really excited about? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a
Let me ask
few
a quick
things.
question.
Yes.
We in the past, and I'm trying to figure out, I do all natural reindeer food.
Mhm.
And the thing is, I give it to the kids, one per family. And I have these little bags that I've been able to find cheap that look like they've got reindeer food on. So I put it in a Ziploc bag. I've heard word from one of the families that know that we were there last year about the family saying that once the kids put it out there, they had a hard time making it disappear. That was the complaint we had about giving out the reindeer food that the kids sprinkled.
Oh,
And
so
it's just baffling to me that was, I mean, they've never come to me. They know I am. But it's like, this is Claus and Santa's reindeer food, and I had the darndest time after they sprinkled in the yard trying to. Well, I don't want to use litter or anything like that. I'm gonna not put hay in this year because my elves grandson who put it for us, Amy, that was a mess trying to stuff baggies. Can we not use hay this year? Corn, I've got the bird seed, and I'm also going to put sugar in it and put like food coloring in the sugar, so it's nothing that's not edible. You've got it in the little cup. Okay.
I did. I ordered these little plastic jars because I didn't want a whole lot, and I took sugar and blue food coloring, and then I'm also going to make pink food coloring, and it's sugar, so it will probably completely dissolve
Disappear.
overnight.
Well,
And
the
then
families that did like it had loved it because I put there and I put stuff that really looks like something the reindeer would eat, but I wanted
Yeah.
it glittery, so I have the sugar. But
Yes,
it's, I
and
just, it floored me that that was the only complaint they had, is that once the kids scattered it, they had to go out there and try to rake it up and hide it.
Well, it could be that there was just so much they couldn't eat it all.
That's what I was saying. So I just didn't know if anybody had ever come across a complaint because of using natural reindeer food.
Well, put like Quaker Oats or something like that, you know? Mix
Oh
it
yeah, I
in.
do. I mean, I use natural stuff. I went to the Feed and Seed and bought, you know, I've got the cracked corn and I've got the stuff, but it was just the parents was having a fit because
okay.
they were out there in the wee hours of the morning trying to hide the evidence, I guess is what the best word to say. Like, get over it, people, you know.
Well, I want to say that Randy and Paula are having some technical issues. They can hear us. But they can't get their audio because they're on their phone right now, so they're
Okay.
listening in. So if
Okay, I apologize.
yeah, so that's why they're not ignoring us. They're just stuck on the but that's right. You'll be able to see the whole video. Okay.
So, there's a couple things that I think that we have a few things to talk about, like what to do before, during, and after. And I think we'll just put those on the Facebook page if that's okay with you, Deanna.
That makes sense.
Instead, I would like to remind you guys that there are three things that I think that I would personally download and print off of the Facebook page. So if you go into Santa Ana Holiday University, right at the top there is a list of different things, and one of them says files. Go to files and scroll down and see what the different files are. About the seventh one down is the season checklist. And it's from the stuff that we did last year, things to do before the season. And then on the bottom half of it, for page 2, you will find like what's in your tote or your purse. Things like a bottle of water, anti-static spray,
Let me go walk.
a sandwich, you know, things like this. And look at that, and then we can, if you have a discussion or want to add to that, we can do it on the Facebook page. The other one is the pages for your after the event journal. And I think that that is a really important page. You can also add it to your, whatever you keep for knowing what each client is doing. But the event journal will list things that you may forget about, like what did you wear? What story did you read? Special events, things that were happening, and mom was pregnant. So the following year, if it's a return visit, you will like, oh, well, gee, now you have a new edition. All these different things you can write on that page and save it for the following year, including contact information. And the third one is what we've been kind of discussing here, and that's how to design an event. And I think those 3 pages are probably really beneficial to us right now. And so those are the 3 that I would like to emphasize, and we'll be mentioning them again also on the Facebook page. But just remember, you know, little things like Santa can't provide some wishes, or Mrs. Claus, or an elf, because we're toy makers. Don't ever promise anything. If you can, how many of you have heard that Toys R Us is opening up a small section in Macy's this year? So
I've heard of
Macy's
that.
stores will now have Toys R Us. So if people are saying, well, gee, we don't have a Toys R Us anymore. If you have like a Farm and Fleet, they have a big, huge Santa Toyland area. And they even actually have a catalog that they go along with it. Look at the prices of things. I was shocked last year to find out those little itty bitty LOL surprise dolls. A camper for one of those was close to $100. Who would ever think that a camper for these little tiny dolls would be that expensive?
And a choking hazard at that.
Yes, agreed. And the other thing is there's something that if anybody has a link that tells when they're running out of things, we need to start posting them for each other in the on the Facebook page. Remember the year that what was it that everybody wanted, and all of a sudden we couldn't get them, and
Oh,
there was
the
a shortage like starting in November.
Game Boy, Xbox 360,
These were some
Elmo.
kind of
Elmo,
Cabbage Patch
some kind
doll.
of toy.
yeah, Cabbie Patch. Oh,
Well, Cabbage Patch Dolls, that was in the 70s or
Right.
And the
80s.
babies.
But
and
there
the-
was one just a few years ago, and where I came from in Wisconsin, we still had them on the shelves. But I was working in Chicago, and a child came up to me and said, "Do you make such and such?" And I said, "Well, yes, we do." And then the mother like was livid, and she's like, "Well," and she announced it to the crowd. It would say, "Well, Mrs. Claus says they make them up at the North Pole and blah blah blah." And so, and since none of us can find them here, maybe she can magically make them appear from the North Pole. And I'm like, "Oh Lord,
Elmo.
what am I gonna?" I whispered to her, "Take 94 straight up to Wisconsin. They still have some there." But it was the next year. The egg-shaped things.
Hatchimals,
The
Hatchimals.
Hatchimals. That was it. Hatchimals. Santa and I have come up with some quick stories that we use, like for the we use the I'm unable to all the ships in the harbor, unable to be getting the stuff off of them. And so kids would come in and they'd ask for things like the Xbox and stuff. And they were the older kids, and it was like, we have a problem with this. Santa thought he was going to be so smart. So he decided to outsource our computer chips for these. And he outsourced them, and guess where they are? They're on a ship sitting in the harbor of Los Angeles. And trust me, it has caused a problem up at the North Pole because the elves are saying, "We told you so." Anyhow, so as one of our excuses as to why. So we will do our best, but we don't know if we're going to be able to get all the parts in for making this before the end of the year, type of thing. Come up with a story for some of these. Is there something else that you would really like? I don't know. I'll have to check my list and find out what our inventory is right now.
One of the things that I share with the children is, because they'll ask for like this laundry list of things, right? And what I'll often say is, well, how about that if we walk through the workshop and we find something and Santa picks out, or I pick out something just for you, and it'll be a surprise rather than something on your list. So that can open the door for mom and dad or the adult or
Good idea.
grandma, grandpa, aunt, whoever it is. And it opens the door that they're going to get something that unexpected. So, and I
So-
also, I wanted to add something because Paula and Randy added something that they sent me a message about something that they wanted to share. So if I can just read this. Paula goes to a daycare and elementary school and does Santa Shark. She has 3 sharks, one with a Santa hat, one with elf ears, and one with reindeer antlers. She plays the song and the children hold the sharks and they sing and dance. So another idea, if you are doing a young, great idea, especially with the antlers and whatever. Can I make one other comment?
The reindeer works
Yeah,
good.
with the hokey pokey as well. Can I add one other comment, Judy, before I
Please,
send it back?
please.
Okay. So the one thing I think we also have to be really cognizant of this year, first of all, started last year, it's going like gangbusters this year that everybody is reclaiming Christmas. The 3 and the 4-year-olds that we'll be visiting may never have seen you before. It might be their first experience with the Claus. And I think we have to be really sensitive to those families and to those children. At the 5-year-old this year might respond to us as a 2-year-old might have last year. So that whole cycle of first time I'm seeing the guy in the big suit in the, all the red, all the white, and all of this kind of stuff. So I think we just need to be cognizant and maybe have that conversation with the families if we're going to a family visit to find out what their experience is or how they might respond, and can they show pictures of you. One of the things I was going to suggest too is, if it's possible, unless your visit is a surprise, and this might be something for Mrs. Claus to do, is to have like a quick 5-10 minute video chat with them saying, I'm so excited to come see you, so that they have that recognition. And so it's just not the first time, unless it's a surprise visit, but just something to be very aware of and very sensitive to. Thank you.
Yeah, we went to a wedding recently, and there was a family there with 2 children, 2 little girls, and the littlest one was a toddler, about just over a year. She wasn't even 2 yet. And then her older sister was between 5 and 6 about. And the father said, the oldest one is a COVID child. She hasn't had COVID, but she has been in isolation basically for 2 years, and she is extremely shy. The youngest one was born right at the end of COVID, and she is extremely, and she was always running up. She didn't think of my husband as Santa Claus, but she was fascinated with his beard, and she would just come up and squeeze it and then go and run away. And the personality difference, granted children have different personalities, but the personality difference and his comment about the fact that his daughter had spent 2 years in isolation. She did not have the socialization that she would have had at a public school or a daycare. And that you spent a lot of time saying, don't get too close, don't touch so-and-so. So it's exactly what Deanna's saying, but I'm trying to give you an example. Yes, you're going to discover a great deal of difference. And families are still recovering from having lost jobs and income. So
We
it's
just had
going to
the
be a
same thing
slow
happen at-
process.
Judy, we just had the same thing happen at church. We did something on Sunday because Halloween was on Monday called Candy Palooza. So each of our Sunday schools are like 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and 5-year-olds. So each of them were able to come to this room, and we had probably 20 to 50 different, literally 20 to 50 different types of candy and jars. And we gave them a bag. The teacher gave them a bag so they would go to table. And I'm at a table telling them, you can take whatever you want, pick one from each. They did not get the concept of being able to choose one item from each. We finally just had to, it was taking too long to try to explain to them. They could have whatever they wanted because they hadn't been trick-or-treating, except for maybe with their family, a few houses. So yeah, and we lovingly call them COVID babies, just like shared.
Right. Exactly.
So I'm going to expect a lot of that because we're going to some daycares and we're going to, some houses that they said they haven't had Santa for a couple of years.
Right. As
I think it's
Deanna
gonna be a tough
says,
season.
some of them have not seen Santa, and they're like 5 or 6 years old.
Mhm.
That they
But they don't
remember,
remember.
because they don't
They don't
remember what happened to
remember.
them when they were 2 or
Yeah.
3.
If they saw Santa when they were an infant, 1 or 2 years old, and now they're 4 or 5 years old, they might not still have that memory.
No.
So.
I have something that happened Sunday too that I want to share. Santa came out, he made his entrance from like a back room at the landscaping place. And he had one of those old school bells it was really, really loud. And when he rang the bell, he rang it all the way from the inside of the building to where he was going to be outside. He rang it as loud as he could. When he first came out of the room, he rang it right next to my girlfriend's head, right by her ear. And then he bent over and there was this little 2 or 3-year-old and he was ringing the bell and the little child was afraid of the bell and she's hanging onto her mom's leg and, under her arm and that kind of thing. And he's ringing the bell and talking to her. She was afraid of the bell. So be careful when you ring the bells that you're not doing it in somebody's ear or very loudly inside, because that one, like I said, it was one of those old heavy school bells and it was really, really loud.
And some people are just plain audio sensitive
Right.
or color sensitive.
Mhm.
And,
That's one
and
thing
also
that-
these children may have had a Santa that has passed and you're new.
Mhm.
Try to think of a backstory that you can, if that should happen. Hopefully you will be told this before you walk into a home, or although if you're in a large setting and someone comes up to you and it's like, you're not the Santa I remember, have a backstory or something. I'm his brother, or, actually there's, there's a really cute little book called Mrs. Claus's Closet. And it's why does Mrs. Claus look different everywhere they go? Because we do not have a set image like you guys have. You guys are basically in the same, you may have a vest or whatever, but you pretty much look like the Coca-Cola Santa. And so you're stuck in that image. Mrs. Claus is not, but it's a very cute book if you want to pick up something like that.
Last-
I find that, being an elf, I've been doing some of these customers for 30 some years. And then try to come back into their family as a Santa, that's a hard one to do, because then they're gonna really know, because you've got a lot of kids that growing up with Snappy and a Santa. Now Snappy is turned into a Santa. That's a hard transition on that, and that's what makes it hard to do something
Do you
like
know
that.
Paul Hillier?
What's that?
Do you know Paul Hillier?
No.
He's from Canada. See if you can become friends with him and ask him. When I met him at the reindeer farm from C.W. Howard, he and I were talking, and he had this whole story about he's still just becoming a Santa, because he's been an elf all this time, and he's now around 400 years old, and now he gets to be a Santa. Talk to him about his story, because I'm sure I don't have it 100% correct, and it was a very believable story that makes a lot of sense, and it might help you.
Yeah.
But it is a cute story about basically after a certain age of, so many 100 years of being an elf and learning the trade,
And-
then he's allowed to be a Santa.
Especially when new kids are coming into the picture, they don't know me as a Snappy, then yeah, I can get away with that. I'm doing a party sometime around Christmas time, and the guy calls me Snappy, and he said, I want to hire you back. I said, well, I play a Santa. You do? I said, yeah. So, it might work that. I don't know. I don't remember the party, but it's been a couple of years during the COVID. So, there's a lot of parties you do, and you don't remember a lot of them.
So Randy shares that when they were in Texas, he worked at a Hyatt, and people would see me as Santa and working. So I would see kids and told them I was Santa's brother, and I was called Bubble Claus. But to Judy's point about, recognizing, let me tell you how real that is. There's been a family that originally Santa Russ and I did for like 4 years. Santa Russ is now staying, in his hometown 4 hours away. So last year, I took another Santa. When I was talking with the family this year, getting the date set, the dad, Javier, says, Deanna, can you come by yourself this year? And my first thought was like, what's wrong? And he said all of the kids noticed that Santa was different than all of the pictures that they have, and everything about it, that they knew it wasn't the same Santa. And so they don't want the kids to be confused, so they want just me to come this year. And so, of course, the new Santa was devastated and wondering, like, did I do something wrong? Like, no, it was just confusing to the kids.
The lack of continuity.
Lack of continuity. So
We
and
did
it just wasn't the same. So I'm sorry, I interrupted someone.
No, you did. We did a parochial school last year, and the kindergartners had Santa come in to just their classroom the day before. One of the dads dressed as Santa and went in.
Oh,
So
no.
I did it with Joe Edie, and they had him go back in. The kids had seen him in the hallway, and they wanted to know why he didn't go in their room. So they asked him to go in, but they said, be prepared, because they're going to ask you why your outfit's different and you're being shorter than the Santas from yesterday. So he said, on the way in, he said, I'm going to have you tell them why my beard's shorter. So he went in and he said, okay, do you notice anything different about me? And one of the kids said something about his outfit. And then somebody else said something about his beard. And he goes, well, last night, and he said, Mrs. Claus, and he goes, I'm going to have her tell you. And I said, I told him to go to the barber shop and get his beard cut, and he didn't do it. So last night when he was sleeping, I took the scissors and I went, click, click, and the kids just folded up laughing. But they warned him ahead of time that he looked different than the Santa that was there the day before.
I thought you were going to say he went to sleep with bubble gum and it got in his hair and he had to cut it out.
So
Yeah.
awesome.
We have the problem with ministering every Sunday to the 2 to 5 year olds. And some of them who just got there will call him Santa, and other ones just kind of are in on, they kind of snicker. We did the community parade around the shopping mall where we came in on that fire truck. And I, with my wig and chain, and they didn't hear my voice. Sunday morning, I got bombarded with about 3 families, and they said, Ms. Nina, you got some splaining to do, because they recognize Santa as Mr. Mikey. So when he has started his Busch Gardens, I put on Facebook, I said, if you're going to Busch Gardens, you might go into the Santa house and it could be Mr. Mikey. So just letting you know, you're going to have some splaining to do. So you may want to look through the window first.
Mhm.
I mean, some of the families kind of explain it to their children, but it's too much close-knit neighborhood of us being around some of the venues. I try really hard if we're in public. I mean, obviously, if they're a guest at a family house, there's no way I can stop it. But I try very hard that when we're going to do a public venue, not that I don't want them to come see us, I just don't want the children to be disillusioned that Mr. Mikey, who saw them on Sunday, now this coming Saturday, is their Santa Claus.
That's all part of the preparation. I want to share one more thing that Randy just wrote. And I know that we're if you have to drop off, fine, but we just tend to keep on chatting until we make sure that everybody is in good shape. Randy shares, this is a great option too, and it's going to lead Judy into one of the things that was important that she wanted to bring up. So I had broken my arm and couldn't do an event with Mrs. Claus, so she went, but I FaceTimed her in front of them with a toy shop background and apologized, saying that I was so busy building toys, so Mrs. Claus came by herself. There's your backup plan, right, Judy? Making sure everybody
Yes.
knows.
So this is one last thing that I want to leave you with, then, Deanna. I'd like you to take a picture. And then we're going to probably stop recording, and then we can still continue to talk if you'd like to. But have a contingency plan. Write down all of your gigs, your events, and list them and the contact information. Because, for instance, when Tom died, they gave Cam the information, but there was no contact information. So we need if the unthinkable happens, if you've been in a car accident, if you get the flu, if something worse happens, you have to leave because a family member is ill. Have a list of all your events, the contact information, things that someone else with the time you're supposed to be there, the dates, obviously, and leave it with someone that can take care of it if something happens to you.
Yeah,
You
just
cannot
like
make an event. So someone you trust. It may sometimes giving it to a family member is not a good idea, because I can tell you if something happened to my husband, I'd be a basket case and I would not be able to even think about looking at this. So but I wouldn't mind giving it to another Santa in the area and said, in case something happens, this is my information. Can you take it from there?
Mhm.
The other thing is that if you have questions, like somebody asked one year, kids asked them why their elf on the shelf, they saw them in a store in a box. Well, actually, if you watch the movie, the cartoon movie of the Elf on the Shelf, the elf story, it shows them sliding down the slide and going into boxes. So it's actually a simple explanation, but don't be afraid to ask us on the, there's a whole group of experts. Some of them new experts and some of them experts of 25 or 40 years. But we have this whole group on our Facebook page that can answer questions. And if we can't find the answer, we're certainly someone's going to look it up and find it for us. And so let's support each other and really be there for each other and write it down and ask.
I have a note to that with the elf on the shelf. Okay, okay, being an elf, when elves get old, they shrink. Because like I said, I'm shrinking. I lost 2 inches. Elf on the shelf get to be very young looking, but they shrink as they get older. But heaven forbid, do not put the elf on the shelf on a ceiling fan, because they're just going to go for a ride. Whoop, 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 and off they go.
Love it.
So,
Well, let
but,
me take a picture of our smiling faces.
So Kathy,
those
can you
that are
bring
here.
yourself on for a second?
Hi, Lori.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
I can
Yes.
hear you.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, because I know I was muted.
No, that's fine. Let's do it 3, 2, 1, and we'll just like do a happy wave or something. 3, 2, 1. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, Deanna, do you want to stop recording? And then Lori, you want to make a comment or something? Do you want to have it on record or do you want us to stop recording?
Oh, it doesn't make a difference. I'm just glad I came on late. I didn't even realize this was happening tonight. And I was eating dinner and I was checking Facebook and there it was. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to stop and get on here. And just this last half hour, I've been listening and I've learned so much. This is going to be my first year going back as Mrs. Claus with a new Santa. And I don't know how it's going to go. I'm going to pray that it goes well. We have some families that I've talked to already, and I don't know how it'll go. It's going to be a whole learning experience, but I've been Mrs. Claus for a long time, so I can get through just about anything.
On December 7th, we're going to have a mid-season check-in. So
I
be
saw
sure
that.
to check in with us.
I'm going to try and do that. Yeah, I like you were, the last thing you were just talking about was the list of your events changing and who the contact people are and stuff like that. Well, I've contacted a lot of the people that we did, visits with in the past. And I've not gotten a lot of responses because when John passed away, I have 2 Santas locally that went to the places that we did and put themselves out there and said, oh, I can be your Santa because he's not going to be doing it this year, whatever. And so it's been very strange, like 2 very big events. I contacted them a while ago and I haven't heard back because I was hoping to be able to do them again. And the contact people haven't said that they've hired somebody else. So it's a little bit weird. It's going to be a whole doing the same thing, but in a whole new way.
Yeah.
Lori,
and
you
this
know
is
how to
kind
get
of
a hold of us,
exciting,
right?
too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad just for me. And I know that Judy and all of us are just so happy to see you back out there, Lori.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. And this was a fun thing tonight that happened. We were at Publix and you saw Santa, that my friend Santa now, right? He looks like that jolly old elf. And we were in Publix and he wears a hat that says Santa Claus wherever we go. And this one girl was saying, you really should play Santa Claus. And the woman, the cashier, knows us for all this time. She says, that is Santa Claus and he will be here as Santa Claus. You'll see him, don't worry. She says he has a great sleigh and he just got a new sleigh. So he can't wait to get out there in his Santa suit in his new 2022 Corvette. He's got a brand new red sleigh and it's really quite hot.
Oh, he's got
And
a, what?
He's got a space age sleigh and it says Santa, his license plate does say Santa. So it's fun. And, we're in, like Nina was saying, I think it was Nina, in the same neighborhood where you see the same people. We see these people all the time. We live in a very small area and people know who he is. They know who I am. And it's going to be an interesting Christmas, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to it, though I'm a little bit nervous, but I can talk to anybody. Yeah, it should be fun. I'm so glad I caught this at the end at least. And Snappy, oh my God, I'm 5 years old and I'm totally entertained. Totally.
I'm glad, and I'm glad for Deanna and Judy to invite me to this website. I'll probably come back again. Deanna is great to work with, and I believe in Santa. I believe in Santa, and I'm not
Me
gonna say I'm
too.
the true Santa, but I enjoy it. I make kids smile, even adults, and that's the main thing. We're all kids at heart.
Yes.
And so I thank you for the invite.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us, Gary. I think those were great closing words. We probably can
Exactly.
wind down and just kind of keep chatting, but we want to thank you so much for being a part of this. We're excited to see the season kick off and get going. And like Judy said, come back on the 7th and let us know how it's going, lessons learned. Because what's our motto, Judy, about succeeding?
When one succeeds, we all succeed.
That's
Exactly.
right.
Absolutely.
And Deanna, I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yes, you will.
All right, good
Thank
night,
you for
everybody.
attending.
Right.
And I think we'll stop the recording at this time. And if you want to